right, first we're going to do some examples of how to find slope from a graph. So let's label that in your notes. Finding slope from a graph. All right, so go ahead and set up axes like this right here. You don't need to label all the way up to 10, maybe just label up to 5 each direction. And so I'll show you, we just need 2 points. So I'm going to put a point at 2, 3. So 2, 3 right there. And then my next point will be at -1, -2. -1, -2. Okay, so make sure you've got that set up. And then let's also put the line in that connects these 2 points. Oops, I was off a little bit. That's okay. All right, so if you need to pause it to get that done, go ahead. Otherwise, let's go ahead and find the slope. So I'm going to use the rise over run way of thinking about slope for this situation, because it's pretty easy to see the rise over the run here. So a lot of times when I have a graph like this, I'll actually make a right triangle from one point to the next. So if I go up straight to here and then over straight to here, I can just find the length of these 2 lines basically, and that would tell me the rise over the run. So the rise is this vertical distance. So notice it's at -2 and it's going up to +3. And so that's a change of 5. You can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So my rise is 5 and it went up, so it's +5. And then my run is going from, it's at -1 and it's going over to 2. And that's a change of 1, 2, 3. And so my run is 3, and that's positive because it's going to the right. So my slope is 5/3. I could just leave it as an improper fraction. That does not reduce. Okay, so the next example, let's do one that's a little bit more complicated. So this time set up axes, but we're not going to count by ones. Let's actually count by tens on the x-axis. So if I count by tens, so that's 10, this would be 20, that'd be 30, this would be 40. I'm not labeling every single one just to save some space so I can see better. This would be -10, that would be -20, and then here would be -40. It's kind of hard to see on mine. I'm going to count by 5s on the y-axis. So here's the y. So this would be 5, this would be 10, that would be 15, that would be 20. So this would be -10, that would be -20. Okay, so once you have that set up, let's put some points on here. So I'm going to put my first point at -20, +10. And let's label that -20, 10. Okay, my second point I'm going to put at 30, -10. Just right about here. 30, -10. Okay, now if I make a right triangle, oops, first I guess I need to make the line connecting these 2 points. So, all right, there's my line. Now I'm going to make a right triangle like we did last time. So go over to here, down to there. One thing to notice is that this has negative slope. So I know that my rise over my run, my final number should be negative. So just keep that in mind as we do this. So when I find my rise, I'm going to put a negative number because it's going down. So it started at 10, it went down to -10. That is a change of -20. And if that's hard for you to recognize, you could count the boxes, but make sure you count by 5. So it's going 5, 10, 15, 20, and it went down, so it's negative. All right, now my run, it's at -20, and it's going over to 30, which I know is 50, but I'll show you how I know that. So if it's at -20, I'm counting by tens when I go sideways, so it goes 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. And if you think about how far apart are the numbers -20 and 30, well, from -20, you'd have to go 20 to get to 0, so that's 20, and then 30 more to get to 30. 20 plus 30 is 50. So there's lots of different ways to think about this. So when I give my rise over my run was the -20, my run was a +50, And this is a fraction that can be reduced. And so I try to think of what number goes into 20 and 50. Well, 10 does. So I divide both top and bottom by 10. I get negative 2 over 5. And it is a negative number, which corresponds with how the graph looks. All right, that's how you find slope from a graph.